Hi. So you know what? Let's do something a little fun. Let's do something a little different. And today we're gonna go through bookstagram, and the first 5 books I found, those are the ones that I'm gonna read. So I did the book selection last night, and I was screen recording as I was scrolling through Instagram, and the first 5 books that I happened to come across, decided to go for them. Only rules I set for myself is that I only really let myself do, actually that's a lie, I was gonna say 1 ad, 2 of them were ads actually. So I pretty much just picked the first 5 books I came across. Thankfully most of them are books that I really want to get to. There is one that I really didn't want to, but let's talk about these selections. So first off, the very first book that I happened to come across, it is The Shots You Take by Rachel Reed. I have not heard of this author. I have not read anything from her before or heard of anything, but looking through some of her backlist, it seems like she does a lot of male sports romances, and this one seems to be that, and hockey centered. So count me in. I'm interested. Maybe we'll find a new sports romance favorite author from this. That would be fantastic. The next one I happened to come across made me excited. But recently, and by recently I mean like in January, I read Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it was one of my favorite books that I've read in such a long time. So much fun, and I've been dying to dive back into it. I've just also been kind of like putting it off because I'm kind of, I don't know why. It's like I'm so highly anticipating the second book that I am just like not wanting to go to it because I know I'm gonna love it so much, and I kind of want to just that for, I don't know, a rainy day when I need a really good book. But this is the perfect opportunity because Instagram told me I had to. So the next one we're doing, that one is Carl's Doomsday Scenario. This is book 2 in this series, and even though books 1 through 4 were pictured in this photo, you know, we're not gonna force ourselves to read all of those. Maybe we will. Who knows how this will go. Maybe by the time this video is done, I will continue on. But that's the plan, is we're going to continue on with book 2. So next, this picture had quite a few books in it, so I did give myself the opportunity to choose. And honestly, my original choice, I was going to go with the When Grumpy Met Sunshine by Charlotte Stein, but couldn't find that one available on the library or KU, so it wasn't very readily available to me. I'm trying not to buy too many books at the moment, and I just looked up the other ones. So the second one I googled was Whiskey Business, and just so happens that that's on KU. So guess what we're going for next? That one. It looks kind of sexy, so we will see how we feel about that one. I really had no intention of continuing on in this series. I read the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore last year for a Goodreads video and hated it, but Bookstagram has spoken, and we are reading The Strawberry Patch Pancake House, which is a small town romance. It takes place in this very whimsical thing, very Gilmore Girls coded small town, and they're just smutty romances which I felt was like a very weird, like the vibes of the smut I don't match the vibe of the cutesiness of the rest of the book. But we are reading that one, and we'll see if it's any better. We'll see if I enjoyed it anymore. And the final book, we have the newest installation from Elsie Silver in her Rose Hill series, which I have been excited to get to. Haven't necessarily loved this series from her, but I am excited to get to it. I have to say, like, I do really want to see what I think about this one. They're all single dad, billionaire, small town romances in this series, and I like, those are all buzzwords for me. Unfortunately, this series isn't like the best one ever. I haven't been loving it like as much as I really hoped I would, but still have to say I am excited to get to it. So those are the 5 books that we'll be reading for this video, and I am so excited to dive into some of these and see what we think. So let's just get started. Let's just go start reading. I'm in that awkward part of the day where like I have to be really careful where I put my head, or else we're gonna get a weird lighting. But I started 2 of the books, and thought I would come in and very quickly just talk about that. See, I'm already like way too late. Very quickly talk about that before I continue on in some of them. So first off, I'll say I'm 22% into Carl's Doomsday Scenario, and I am having a blast. I am having more fun than I could ever explain with this one. And I was trying, like last night I was reading it in bed, and I was trying to explain the plot of this to my husband, and I was like, you just need to read it. But this is one. So aliens invaded Earth. We find out that there is a huge galaxy of all of these different planets that have been basically seeded with like specific type of like species to grow, and this one, like these different corporations, wow, these different corporations cannot say that. These different corporations let them basically grow to a certain point where they're technologically advanced enough that they have managed to mine the resources, and the corporations come in, basically kill off 90% of the probably 99% of the population, mine the resources, and they take what is left of humanity or any of the species, because there's many different ones apparently, and they send them into a dungeon type game that is then broadcasted to the entire world, like galaxy, and it is insanely popular. So apparently, like, this is where corporations make their money, is because people get so insanely invested in this. It is like the reality show of the stars type of thing. Billions and trillions of people watch it and get so invested in these different people fighting through these dungeons to survive. And then the dungeons themselves, they are the most ridiculous like D&D type of things in the world, and there's just levels that our main characters are following, and they're basically just following like a lot of D&D rules. It's called like a lit RPG because it's basically like very much these same rules as any RPG, where characters are like gaining experience points, they're gaining spells, they have certain like constraints on what type of magics they can use, what type of abilities they're able to gain, and they just start like powering up within these skills, and it's so highly entertaining. We're following Carl, who one of the few people who survived, and Princess Donut, who was his ex-girlfriend's cat that he happened to be saved. Because the way that everyone dies is if you're inside a building, the building happens to be flattened and everyone inside dies, and everyone who's outside is then sent into these dungeons. So Princess Donut escaped the apartment, and Carl was outside trying to like get her down from a tree, and they ended up going into the dungeon together. Princess Donut then like very quickly somehow like found this item that turned her insanely intelligent, so now she is a fully sentient talking cat, and basically has, you know, the personality that you would expect from a cat who thinks that she is royalty, and it's fantastic. I love it. There's like all of these different like other things going on about like some kind of in the background like political thing going on and different theories and all these things, and I love it. So good. Having a blast just saying that. But then I also started Wild Side, and I have not been loving this series from Elsie Silver, and I have to say that this one, the ideas that are going into it I think are the most interesting, but there are some major flaws in logic in this one. So we follow one woman, Tabitha. Her sister Erica has for years dealt with addiction and has a 3-year-old son. Her sister dies very suddenly, and in her will she leaves custody of her son Milo to her neighbor slash landlord Reese. And basically we find out that Erica's been lying to everybody wildly. So she told Reese that Tabitha was a horrible sister who wasn't involved in her life, though we find out that Tabitha was like very involved and constantly taking over Milo. Pretended that her parents weren't in the picture, while her parents might not talk to Erica, but they were still very involved with Milo again, and kept telling Erica that Reese was this terrible person and he didn't want her around, so she wasn't allowed to visit. So now that Erica's dead and Reese is suddenly given custody, obviously her family's fighting it, and they're doing it in such a weird way. Like, I just have to say, like, the logic I do not understand, because they're not getting lawyers involved by any means. They're fully just like being like, okay, that's her will, I guess we have to accept it, even though they like fully disagree about the fact that Reese has custody. And there's things like that, and like just the way that everyone is acting. Like, Reese will come, he drops off Milo at Tabitha's, and then he leaves for a while, and like he really is trusting that he will be able to come back and just see him, and he's this like MMA fighter type of thing, and he is not like refusing to admit to Tabitha what he does. And it feels like one of those things that, like, you know, if somebody were to suddenly get custody of a child that I thought I would be taking care of, like, I would try to find as much information about this person as possible. I'd try to figure out like whatever I can, like even if you aren't necessarily going to take it to court, just to like find out details. You know, there's a lot of logic gaps here. And another thing is, so he's American, and where we're at in the book right now, he and Tabitha are getting married. They're doing a fake marriage for citizenship, because where these books take place is in Canada. And I just have to say, that's wrong. Like, that's not how it works in Canada. You can't just marry for citizenship. There's a whole other process. Like, there's certain, like, somebody has to sponsor you for citizenship. It does not have to be a spouse, and getting married does not necessarily like suddenly make it easier. So that is a major flaw in logic that I think like Elsie Silver is just kind of hoping people wouldn't know about, or that they would just assume it's the same as America. That's wrong. There's just a lot of things that are like throwing me off completely in this one. And overall, I haven't liked this series a lot. I like keep trying. I don't know why, but I keep going into this series and trying, hoping that the next one will turn out better. So far, no. I do have to say though, like, I think this so far is the one I'm enjoying the most, just because like something about the vibes are slightly better in this one. I don't know, like maybe, like, honestly, I can't even pinpoint what it is, but I'm enjoying this one slightly more. I think I find it slightly less ridiculous than the other ones, which is really saying something, knowing how many of the things happen to be wrong in this. But yeah, I guess there's that. So I finished Wild Side, and I'm really, really unsure if I want to give this like a 2 or 3 star. I think out of this series by Elsie Silver, this is probably the best one, but like that's really not saying much because I think that none of these books have been particularly good. And this one, so biggest issue, one thing that 100% falls in with I think like a lot of my other issues with her stuff is that I think the relationship development 100% stops once a sexual relationship starts between characters, and it 100% just becomes all about their sex life, and suddenly they are in love because they are now like sleeping together, and that's not really what I want to see. I want to see more of a progression. I want to see them falling for each other a bit more, and I really don't feel like I'm seeing it in these books. Like something is just really glaringly missing for me, and I don't know what it is. I don't know, like I mean, I really prefer a slow burn romance, and I feel like these ones are not delivering on it. So I think that that's just kind of like part of it. And yeah, that ended up being a huge disappointment for me. Is just I wanted to see more from the relationships, and I feel like I'm always just left wanting and left feeling a bit upset. And then getting into the story itself, in theory I love so many things about this. In theory, I love this idea of like this man being so invested in this child's future and wanting to step up and really take care of him, wanting to be involved, wanting to come in as an adoptive father. And I love this idea too of like marrying because it will help with his residency, it will help with the like adoption, all of these things. Love those series. I just don't think any of them were executed well in this book. There were just like way too many very stupid decisions, very like lack of questions by the characters, and just a lot of things that like really nobody was going into this smart in any way. The fact that the like lawyers were not involved about this child's custody, ridiculous. Like that makes zero sense to me. And just all of these lies that were going on from the main character's deceased sister, really insane that like so much that was happening. And at the same time too, like I will say, okay, so actually I will say I think that our male main character was the best that we've had in the series. I really enjoyed him, just how much he really cared about the child in this relationship and about our female main character Tabitha. Really enjoyed seeing that. But I just had I think I just really had the ick from the fact that he was a professional wrestler, and I don't know what it was. I think it's just the way he was talking about it. Like he seemed so embarrassed about it, and I think maybe that was my issue. Also, like I'm not super into wrestling to begin with, so like it's not really my thing, but he was so embarrassed to be talking about this, and he was trying like at every, wouldn't tell people what he did for a living, would just like really like hide it from every part of his life, and be so like just like trying to divide his life into like wrestling versus like the other half of his life. And it was weird. I don't know, like just something about it gave me the ick, and yeah, so I couldn't really get on board with him. And yeah, so there's that. I don't know if this is 2 star, 3 star, who knows. Yeah, I don't know, maybe 2.5. I guess maybe that's where we can kind of land. I guess it's the in between, because I think I gave the other 2 books in this series 2 stars. Why do I keep reading them? I don't know. But yeah, it's slightly better, I guess. So we read it, yay. Okay, well, I'm gonna go finish the next book, I guess. So hi, I finished Carl's Doomsday Scenario, and yeah, 5 stars. I have to say, like 100% 5 stars. I'm already like a good way through the 3rd book right now when I'm coming in to update this too, because this like reinvigorated my love, because when I read the first one, loved it, but then just I don't know, like wasn't super excited to pick up the second one. I think I let like just enough time pass, so by the time the second one, I don't know, was sitting there, it wasn't like as exciting for me to pick up. It was just one of like, okay, yeah, that'd be great at some point. So I'm so glad that this video forced me to finally do it, because oh my god, this was good. This is the most ridiculous story ever, and it is the most fun thing in the world. Like I truly cannot explain how ridiculously fun these books are, and I do think you have to be kind of into this RPG kind of thing. Like you have to understand maybe a few of the basic rules of D&D, just a few things to go into it and not be like super shocked at everything that's going on. But it is just so intensely fun, intensely ridiculous, and again, like you just have to go with the ride and just accept that everything that is happening is insane and just like go along for the ride with it. In this one, our main characters Carl and Princess Donut, who yes is a talking cat and is one of the main characters in the series, they're on the 2nd level of the dungeon, which is this basically like different towns, different sized towns all connected that house these like skyfowl people, and it's basically the whole point of this dungeon is to just do different quests within it basically, and they are just doing all of these different things, seemingly like not a super difficult level, but really just for them to learn more about the storytelling aspect that a lot of these different floors will have. So like a lot of them have some kind of overarching story that the characters just kind of have to like go along with and really get into to try and like survive. Super fun. Like, really don't know what else to say. Like, because it's kind of hard to say too much about this one without getting crazy spoilery, especially book 2 in a series. But like through and through, this was amazing. 5 stars, like easily like one of the easiest 5 stars I've ever given. Like, I cannot like begin to express how much I enjoyed this one. And like I said, I'm already a good chunk into book 3, which I won't talk too much about it aside from saying it's to do with subway lines basically. And I've weirdly, like, I don't understand how, but I have been dreaming about this like every night. Like, literally every one of my dreams for the past few nights has been about Dungeon Crawler Carl, and in particular now these subway lines and like all these things. And it is weird. It is weird. It is sticking in my head. I cannot get this out of my brain, and I am obsessed. Like, there's really like no other way to say this other than I am fully obsessed right now. And I've already like done such a crazy deep dive into all of the other books, what levels they take place on, what the major plot points are, when the next book's coming out, how many books are in this, like all these things. So there's like 7 books out right now. The 8th book is coming out in the fall, and it's predicted to be 10 total. And I've never been like, I can't remember the last time I've been this obsessed about a book. And yeah, like, I think for the foreseeable future, this is fully going to be everything I want to read. And I'm having such a trouble of like, do I want to binge through them? Yes, but then if I binge, I'm gonna have nothing left. So like, I am having like such a struggle with this right now, and it is ridiculous. But here's my brain's at. I could honestly just rant about this forever, but yeah, that's where we are. That's where we are. Yeah, this is fantastic. Highly recommend everyone check out this series. I'm going to be forcing my husband to read it soon because it's so good, and I'm going to be trying to push it down the throats of like all my friends too. So there we go. That one's fantastic. Good job, Bookstagram, for showing me this book. And yeah, I'm gonna go to the next book now, which hopefully will be good. I don't know how anything will compare to this though. So unfortunately I didn't. Whiskey Business. I forced myself to try 100 pages of it, but I just really was not enjoying the writing on this one. So in this one we're following I would say like failed actress, but she's somebody who like really had been doing good, and then it seems like there was some kind of scandal, and now she's like fallen off of public graces, and like her life is really kind of falling apart, and she's just been doing all of these like random gigs here and there. She goes back to her hometown after her grandfather passes, and for some reason, I guess just wrap up his affairs, but she's going back to the small town, and we're following her romance with a owner of a whiskey distillery / a former friend's older brother who really hates her. And I just honestly didn't get far enough into it to really understand the exact premise and the exact conflict, like why they hate each other, why everything, why there's going to be some huge drama. And I couldn't care. I could not get into this writing. I hated it. And I don't really like following, like, I enjoy following celebrities in books, but in this one it felt like she was going more towards like an influencer, and she's talking about how like brand deals are the only things that are keeping her afloat, and like just all these things that don't really work for me. Like, I really don't like following influencers in books. So that one, I couldn't find myself getting into it. There was the start of a conflict between her and this whiskey man, and I didn't understand where it was coming from. They weren't giving us enough backstory. They weren't just giving us like anything that I thought was interesting. So unfortunately, very quickly decided to DNF this one. Forced myself to try 100 pages, but like that was still rough. So yeah, this one was a complete fail. Okay, so I'm coming in. I think I'm like just about halfway through this one. And first off, I have to say, like, if you can see the foiling, it's a little hard because they have the protective cover on this one, but there is foiling on this, and I fucking love it. I love that, like, these books, they just kind of like really lean into that aesthetic of like, they know the TikTok girlies who want fun editions are going to be getting these. And so, like, I think I previously said, I read book 3 in this series, and that's it. And this is book 4. They're all interconnected standalones, so you really don't need to read them in order. They all take place in a small town. They all have the exact same vibe. So it's like, if you read one, I feel like you kind of have the sense of like what the entire series is. But in this one, we are following a single father. So his name is Archer. He's a world-renowned chef who until recently had been living in France. And he gets word that he had a daughter with one of his former co-workers. So they had a one-night stand. She got pregnant and never told him about it until she passes away, and he is informed that he's now, you know, like sole custody of this 6-year-old girl. I think she's 6, but she's very young. So he moves to this new small town and is trying to get his life started again because, you know, he's moving internationally now. He really wants to step up for this daughter because he, you know, he didn't know about her, and now he feels like he has to make up for all this time that he lost / she lost her mother, and he really wants to make sure she's okay. But he gets to this small town and immediately is like you know, trying to get his life together and things are going terribly wrong. So first off, he's not connecting well with his daughter, which makes sense. She just lost her mother, doesn't know who he is. And then he tries to find a job. He ends up getting one at a local diner and decides to kind of like revitalize the menu, but everybody is upset about it because it's small town people who have like had the same food for years and years, and they are ridiculously upset at the fact that he is coming in and changing things up. And because he needs help, he's realizing quickly that he can't manage this all. He runs into he ends up getting suggestion of this woman Iris to come in and work as his like in-home nanny basically. And she's somebody, she's never managed to hold down a job. Her life has kind of been chaotic. She's never really like, I feel in a lot of ways like never really had a steady life. So she comes in, immediately starts like falling in love with the kid, of course, and immediately starts getting very, very attracted to her new boss because he's apparently very gorgeous. He lives across the hall from her now. He likes to cook topless, and they just kind of have a bit of a flirty relationship. So I have to say, I love the trope of, first off, single dad romances, and second of all, like nanny romances. Love both of them. I think that they work wonderfully for me. So that is very much like those are working. I love small town romances, and I am definitely enjoying like the quirks of it. This is like Gilmore Girls. Think Gilmore Girls, think the quirks of the small town and Gilmore Girls, like 100%. That is what this is. But I don't really love the writing in these books. I have to say, like they're a decent time. They are enjoyable, but they're also like nothing I would write home about, if that makes sense. Like they're perfectly fine. And I think you kind of have to go into this series of like, these are perfectly fine books, but they will not be great by any means. And yeah, like it's fun. I'm having a very, very decent time with it, and I'm definitely enjoying what I'm reading. It's just like I have to remind myself that like not to expect the best thing ever, just based on the one book I read and it was like whatever. So yeah, I'm having fun. I have to say, I'm having fun. It's just like, it's not fantastic. Like this is not gonna be a 5-star read, but 3/4 maybe. Right, we have finished another book, Strawberry Patch Pancake House, which is the most like ridiculous name ever. So much like, honestly, the other ones, what are the other ones? Like the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, Christmas Tree Farm. I don't know why this one feels like the most ridiculous, but I think we're gonna say this was completely fine, but really truly nothing good. Like it was very, very fine and forgettable. And this, like, even though I finished it technically a few days ago, already like so out of my mind and so like just, yeah, forgettable, not interesting. Really, like all you need to know, it was, yeah, a small town single father nanny romance, and you know, pretty much that's exactly it, and exactly what to expect with it, I guess. Like really nothing interesting happened, nothing unexpected, nothing that you couldn't like 100% predict. I feel like the most kind of exciting part, even I don't even know if it's exciting, is there's this whole subplot about the fact that this single dad who comes in, he's a chef, and he is working at this diner, and there's this huge drama about the fact that he has switched up the pancake recipe, and every person in the town is upset, and it is this huge subplot about him trying to figure out what the pancake recipe is and trying to appease the town folk and get them to accept him, and also like trying to get, the one thing that I did enjoy is like another big plot is him trying to get his daughter to open up to him and to now be okay with him in her life. That part I liked, that part I did like, but to be very honest, the rest of it, so forgettable, so ridiculous, and really like these are so stupid in so many ways. Like I think they are really trying to go over the top and ridiculous, and I know that would definitely work for so many people. For me, it doesn't. I also find like I really struggle when there's such a jarring like shift in it's a sweet small town, silly small town things happening, and then there's like really explicit sex scenes. I I don't mind a spicy book. To be fair, like I'm not as into it now as I used to be. I think like there's a time and place for it is kind of how I would say. And I find it so jarring when they're in these like cozier books, because I feel like the vibes so do not match, and it always just like, it's like oh my god, there it is. Like it just always kind of shocks me a little bit, because like I just really do not expect it. So yeah, like that's just another little complaint I have with these books, is that they're like, they feel like they should be so wholesome and sweet and silly, and then there's just like really spicy explicit scenes that just feel so out of nowhere. So yeah, anyway, I'm done this. I'm gonna give it like a 3-star, I guess. I don't know if it even deserves that, but I don't want to think about it any more than that, so we're just gonna land on a 3. All right, so I have started our final book, which is The Shots You Take, and this is a queer hockey romance, and it is very much a second chance romance because we are following 2 characters. They get reunited at one of their father's funerals, and years before they had been best friends. They'd lived together, they were on the same hockey team, like teammates, just really involved in each other's lives. But they had a secret, which is that they would occasionally go home from the bar and just hook up with each other. And one of the guys, he very quickly, like, he was able to identify, like, you know, I'm a gay man and I very much have feelings for this guy. The other one was very you know, just trying to be like, no, just something we do as friends, we're just really good friends who occasionally have sex. And things happened, we don't really know yet, but something happened that really ended their friendship. So at this point, it's now been, I think, 12 years that they haven't seen each other, something like that. And yeah, they're reunited at the one of their father's funerals because the other guy decides to come and like really show his support. Slash, we do learn relatively early on as well that he is now an out gay man. So this was the second guy who still thought that he was, you know, straight, but he's realized that he's actually gay and is now just kind of like, you know, realizing something is missing in his life, and he's never been able to stop thinking about this best friend. So it's going to definitely be a second chance romance between them and them reuniting, working through their things. And I guess we'll see what this event was that like caused them to have a major breakup, like not even just romantically, but also friend breakup, and what has led to like all this years of silence from them. So really excited to see where this goes. I'm listening to it on audio though, and I have to say the narrator is doing the weirdest choice for the accent for one of the families, because they're the guy whose father died. They live in Nova Scotia, and the choice that this narrator is making for the accents is so weird. Nothing I have ever heard before, and I'm so confused. All right, I have finished The Shots You Take. So I did listen to this on audio and finish it off today. And overall, I think it was a pretty cute second chance romance. Just these 2 guys who had been best friends for so many years, then had a falling out, reconnecting, and really coming to terms with their feelings for each other. One of the guys, Riley, had always known he was in love with Adam, and it took Adam a lot of years to realize that he was in fact gay and that he, you know, really had strong feelings for Riley that weren't just friendly. And, you know, they spent a lot of years just hooking up, like fooling around, doing stuff together, and it took him a lot of time to really realize that that was just, you know, not just fun time to be had with best friend. It was actually like he had deep feelings and he wasn't that gay. So overall, I think it was decent. I don't know, like I don't feel like much stood out for me, unfortunately. Like I wasn't super invested in the relationship. I really wish I was. I think like the book was very cute. It just didn't have enough like that spark for me to get super into it. And I don't know what it was. Like it just, yeah, something about it just didn't connect in my mind, unfortunately. But it was cute. It was cute for sure. And I am gonna give this 3 stars. So this was interesting. It was like an interesting challenge. Obviously, like, you know, not as many books that would work for me necessarily, just because it really was based on nothing at all, just people I follow randomly or ads that came up. So it really, like, there is a wide array of books that could have came up. It could have been literally anything. And the only one that really worked was the Dungeon Crawler Girl book. Of course, I knew that one would be like the biggest one ever. And otherwise, like, we just get random books that may or may not work, which is still fun to explore that. But anyways, thanks for watching today's video. If you are interested in more content from me, I will have my Instagram link down below and my beauty channel as well. And if you haven't already, would love if you would consider subscribing. So thanks for watching today's video. Hopefully I'll see you in something very soon.